Barbarian is a brand new suspense horror movie that recently came out in theaters over this past weekend. This film stars Bill Skarsgård, Georgina Campbell, Justin Long, among other people. Great thing about this movie is that it's hard to spoil because there's so much shit that happened in the movie that I had no idea was going to happen, and then it happened. So here's the best way I could break down the story. A woman named Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, has rented a home for a weekend or whatever, and unfortunately when she gets there, she discovers that there's already somebody else living there. So as the two strangers decide to work it out and figure out like why the situation is happening, some weird stuff starts occurring, and the house, there's just a lot of surprises in the house, and that's really all I could say. I say this with no disrespect intended and with the best intentions possible. This movie was batshit insane. This movie several times throughout its runtime lost its goddamn mind. Like this movie, I think I set a record for the amount of times that I said holy shit or what the fuck in a movie theater. It was nuts. It reminded me a lot of Malignant last year. You guys remember Malignant? Malignant was probably the craziest horror movie that I saw last year. This movie tops it in some ways, and it's kind of weird because I think Malignant and Barbarian have like the same font on their titles or whatever, so it made me think that they were made and produced by the same people. It is literally subverting your expectations, the movie. Whatever you think you know about this movie, I'm here to tell you right now, you don't. You don't know shit about this movie. Even if you've seen the trailer, like you saw the trailer, you're like, oh, okay, that looks like it might be fun. The trailer is one of the best trailers because it doesn't tell you anything about what is actually happening in this movie. A lot of times when you watch trailers, you feel like you've seen the entire movie in the trailer. Then when you go watch the movie, you're like, yep, it's happening exactly the way that I saw it in the trailer. Not the case with this movie. You see the trailer and then you watch the movie and you're like, holy fuck, that was just like the tip of the damn iceberg. So shout out to the screenplay, shout out to the director in this movie for constantly finding new ways throughout the runtime to surprise the viewer, or to flip something on its head, or to make you look at something from a different perspective, or to just come out of nowhere with something wild that you weren't expecting. You guys know I'm a movie nerd, therefore I'm a sucker for great camera work. This movie has great camera work that really adds to the tension of the whole thing. Everybody that takes pictures knows that it's all about the angles, and some of the angles that this movie went for in terms of its shot selection, A1. There's a lot of slow pans and zooms and some snap zooms and a little bit of everything thrown into the camera work of this movie, and I loved it because it just made scenes feel a lot more tense than they should be. There's also a lot of scenes in this movie where the score or the lack of score really adds to it. Like there's scenes where even something as simple as like pouring a cup of tea, it feels like there's something really bad that could happen in a scene like that. And you have a lot of scenes like that throughout the film. So in terms of like suspense and tension, this movie knows how to execute it. The performances in the movie are all really good. Bill Skarsgård is good. Georgina Campbell, probably the standout performance of the movie. You have so many moments in this movie where you're gonna be like,
bitch, you better be joking.
I don't know, you might be scared a few times, you might be disgusted a few more times, you might be like, what the hell am I watching? But you're going to be watching and you're going to be entertained. And I think that that is the best thing, best compliment I could say about the whole movie. I do think even though in a movie like this where they change around some of the tropes and the cliches, there are still the cliches that exist in almost any horror movie, which is dumb characters doing dumb things at the absolute dumbest time possible. It's just more of a nitpick. You do notice it the longer the movie goes on, where you're like, why are you making that decision? What made you think that was a good decision? And it's not like, oh, I want them to be perfect. It's just like the screenplay needs the next scene to happen for this dumb thing to happen. So you gotta kind of roll with it. I've said this before in certain horror movies, certain supernatural movies, sometimes you can make the leap and sometimes you can't. This movie did ask you to make a few too many leaps. Specifically, this movie has some unsatisfying ways that it deals with some of the questions that arise from a movie like this. Sometimes I don't mind unanswered questions. In a movie like this, I just feel like these unanswered questions take me out of the movie and mess with the overall plot of the movie, because now all of a sudden I have questions that mess with certain things that happen. Also, the movie does have some subtle and not so subtle things that is trying to like press upon you in terms of messages like degradation of certain neighborhoods and about men and women and their relationships and about the perception and reality, how things work between the genders. I do appreciate that the movie tried to add that commentary in there, but it kind of just adds it and then it doesn't explore it or go in depth with any of it. So it kind of feels a little bit tacked on in a movie like this. Some people are gonna feel like it's slow. Some people are gonna feel like it's confusing. Some people are gonna feel like they go way too far. Like I said, they take a few leaps that maybe some people are not gonna go with. But overall, as far as a movie that finds a way to constantly surprise you with every twist and turn. I had a blast watching Barbarian, and I would recommend that you go out and watch it. Barbarian is one of the most wild, fun horror movies I've seen in years. I'm gonna leave this one in the Silver Age for Man of Steel. Tell me which one you prefer, Malignant from last year with James Wan or Barbarian? Let me know your pick for which one you like better in the comment section. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.